Welcome back to our channel where we share updates and untold stories about Catherine, Princess of Wales, and her royal family. Today we bring you some news. Camilla shattered. Carole Middleton's secret portfolio sparks palace shock. An insider source said that when Queen Camilla told Princess Catherine to stop bringing her parents and siblings to royal family events because they were poor, she thought Catherine's parents were embarrassing for the royal family. The insider said that Princess Catherine was quite unhappy when Camilla told her parents to walk to the back entrance of the royal family's gathering. The insider said that Princess Catherine has a hard time telling her family how she really feels about Camilla asking them to do anything. A story says that in a rare interview with Carole Middleton about how she got through the failure of her party piece company, she made a surprise revelation about how Camilla treats her family when they go bankrupt and her daughter is facing illness. Everyone was horrified by Camilla's mistreatment of Princess Catherine's mom. The Matriarch's Gambit: How Carole Middleton's quiet rebellion changed the royal map. In the rarefied realm of the British monarchy, where power is defined by how close you are to the throne and influence is used in quiet discussions, a huge change has happened. It didn't start with a loud announcement or a constitutional crisis. It started with a quiet, planned choice made by a lady who had been underestimated for a long time, Carole Middleton. The Princess of Wales's mother, who was long seen as a minor player, has apparently made a move so big that it has sent Queen Camilla reeling and changed the way things work in the House of Windsor. What started as a mother's fight to be close to her daughter has turned into a lesson in soft power. Sources claim that a private showdown left the Queen in tears and shook the royal hierarchy to its core. This is the tale of how years of perceived insults, a collision of wealth and culture, and one woman's unwavering determination led to a confrontation within the glittering gates of Buckingham Palace. Carole Middleton has done her part with perfect discretion for more than 10 years. The former flight attendant who became a self-made billionaire by building a party supply business from her kitchen table has always acted like a respectable middle-class person. But beneath the calm grins at royal weddings and the proud looks at state events, a different story was going on. It was a narrative of being left out, of being seen as an extra part of the royal machine that was useful but annoying. Carole Middleton has changed that tale with one bold move. She has reminded the institution that blood may provide titles, but strength of will earns respect. Part la fil, the seeds of unhappiness. A rivalry that no one talks about. The wedding of Prince William and Catherine Middleton on April 29, 2011, was a fairy tale that brought people from all around the world together. As the world watched, two families from quite different backgrounds seemed to come together without any problems. Queen Elizabeth II, Prince Philip, Prince Charles, and his wife Camilla, then the Duchess of Cornwall, stood on one side as representatives of the old institution of the monarchy. Michael and Carole Middleton, their son James, and their daughter Pippa were on the opposite side. They were the perfect example of what contemporary ambitious Britain should be like: prosperous, close-knit, and quite normal. The harmony was excellent in front of the audience. Pictures show Carole Middleton and Camilla standing next to one another and smiling politely for the official pictures. But royal watchers and those close to the family say that the public spectacle hid a subtle but real tension that had been building for years. The problems weren't personal, but rather a deep conflict of class, culture, and power. Carole Middleton's parents were a builder and a store worker. Therefore, she came from a quite different world than the landed elite. She had worked hard to get her job, not inherited it. She and her husband Michael, who used to be a flight dispatcher, started Party Pieces in 1987 after working at British Airways. Their desire to create their own business turned a tiny one into a multi-million-pound company, giving them a comfortable living and the ability to send their 3 children to Marlborough College, one of the most elite public institutions in the UK. Carole was, and still is, quite proud of the fact that her family made their own way in life by hard work, not by being given things. But this background turned out to be a double-edged sword among the strict unwritten hierarchy of the royal court. People believed that the Queen was practical and kind, but the aristocratic group around Prince Charles at the time was not. As Kate and William's connection became stronger, Carole started to feel the subtle frost of the establishment. At high society events and when she first met people at royal estates, she frequently felt what one friend subsequently called polite invisibility. A person who knew about the times said she would be in a room and some people would just look through her. It wasn't really nasty, but it was an obvious message. They thought of her as a tradeswoman even though she was the mother of the future queen. The message was, "You are not one of us. You are a guest here." Many people think that Queen Camilla is at the core of this orthodox group. She was born Camilla Shand and came from the upper class. She moved easily within its exclusive circles. She knew its unspoken rules, how important family was to it, and how suspicious it was of outsiders. Camilla had fought her way into the royal family, and by 2011 she was a strong supporter of its traditions. Angela Levin, who writes on the royal family, says that Camilla strongly believes in knowing one's place. This belief may have shaped her opinion of the growing power of the Middleton family. The time before the wedding in 2011 became the first big fight. Carole, who was used to planning events with great care, naturally wanted to add her own touches to her daughter's wedding. She thought of little meaningful actions that would show how welcoming and contemporary the Middletons are. Reports say that the palace's planning committee politely but firmly turned down several of her ideas, such as particular flower arrangements and adding people to the guest list. Courtiers said this was because of procedure and history. A family member is said to have told a journalist, "Carole felt like she was just a spectator. She couldn't make any decisions, even the smallest ones. It was a clear reminder that this was not a family wedding. It was a state occasion, and she didn't need to be there. This made her feel that her job was to smile, wave, and stay in the background." The tensions did not go away after the wedding, when Catherine, as the Duchess of Cambridge, began her royal responsibilities. They just went into hiding. Carole, a loving mother, found it harder and harder to see her daughter because of royal journals and security rules. Kate did a great job of handling her public duties and her confidence grew. But her mother could see how hard it was for her to balance the rigid, demanding world of the monarchy with the relaxed, down-to-earth world of her own family. Christmas became a time of trouble. It was a royal custom for the Prince and Princess of Wales to spend the holiday in Sandringham with the king. This meant going against the Middleton family's own traditions that they loved. Even if concessions were often made, the crown was always the default. Carole felt a faint but constant sadness as she saw her daughter and grandkids become involved with an institution that appeared to keep her at arm's length. Part 2. The cracks are getting bigger, from grandmother to guest. The arrival of Prince George in July 2013 should have been a time of pure delight for Carole Middleton, who was finally able to become the doting grandmother she had always wanted to be. She was an experienced mother of 3 and wanted to be there for her children in person, just as she had always been for her own. But the palace had other plans. In the future, a king's world won't be one of unplanned family visits and casual babysitting. Royal nannies were chosen following a strict procedure. They made strict routines. There were strict rules on who may see the baby prince. Carole thought these steps were just another way to keep her out, even though they were supposed to be customary for an heir to the throne. People frequently and respectfully turned down her offers to assist, and trips to Kensington Palace had to be planned long in advance because of a complicated web of official obligations and security issues. Some people close to the royal family say that Queen Camilla, who is also a grandmother, secretly supported this official way of doing things. One former courtier said, "Camilla thought that the royal kids should be raised in the royal system from the start. She thought that the Middleton influence, which had a more laid-back, middle-class mentality, may get in the way of the training that a future king or queen would need. It wasn't meant to hurt anybody, but it was a blatant attempt to keep control of the institution. The underlying competition between the two matriarchs, one symbolizing hereditary heritage and the other achieved success, became clearer during Princess Charlotte's baptism in July 2015. The Church of St. Mary Magdalene in Sandringham was the site of the wedding. This is the same church where Princess Diana was baptized. After the ceremony, Carole was said to have organized a small private gathering for close relatives and friends, an intimate celebration to go along with the ceremonial events. But at the last minute, it is said that her intentions were changed. Sources said that the Duke and Duchess of Cornwall's staff got involved because they needed to combine the reception after the wedding at Sandringham House for safety and logistical concerns. The adjustment made things confusing and disappointing, as it turned Carole's intimate gathering into a bigger, more official royal ceremony. What was meant to be a sweet family event turned into another harsh reminder that the palace had to approve of her being in her grandchildren's life. Carole Middleton kept a respectful quiet in public throughout these years. She never complained to the media or indicated that she was upset. She had trained her kids to be careful and not say too much, and she followed those rules herself. But behind the scenes, the emotional cost was rising. She saw that Camilla's own grandkids from her former marriage were welcomed into royal society and given a degree of casual contact that she was never given. A source close to the Middletons said, "It was the difference that hurt so much." She observed one pair of grandparents being hugged, but she was treated like a guest who needed to make an appointment. Kate tried her best to close the distance, but she was under a lot of stress. She was becoming tired of trying to make both sides pleased. Part 3. The Tipping Point. A Quiet War Declaration. For years, Carole Middleton put up with being ignored and pushed aside in a quiet but strong way. But it is thought that a single event in November 2018 changed her passive endurance into a deliberate long-term plan of action. The event was a big celebration at Buckingham Palace for Prince Charles's 70th birthday. It was attended by royals and important people from all across Europe. Of course, the Middletons were there looking as serene and elegant as always. But Carole is said to have heard Camilla talking to a group of her longtime aristocratic acquaintances during the event. Camilla is believed to have made a pointed statement about the distinction between old money and new money as they were talking about how Britain's social environment is changing. She ended by saying that breeding and heritage are more important than just making money. There was no mention of names, but the setting and the audience made it clear what was meant. Carole, who had worked hard all her life to build her family's riches, felt that the phrase was a direct and very personal attack. It was a last clear moment for her. No matter how well she did in business, how well she behaved, or that her daughter would one day be queen, the old guard of the institution would always see her as an outsider. Things changed that night. The embarrassment didn't make her angry. Instead, it gave her a cold, distinct determination. Several reliable sources say that Carole Middleton started a new private initiative from that point on. She stopped trying to fit in and began writing down how she was left out. She started writing down very detailed notes in a series of secret notebooks. Every time she was supposed to see her grandkids, something came up at the last minute. Every family vacation when their preparations were ruined by an unexpected royal summons. Every school function or milestone that she wasn't invited to. She made a precise record of her family's marginalization by writing down dates, timings, and the official explanations offered. But what she did was far more than just keep a journal of her problems. Carole started to collect information by using the large network of business and social connections she had built up over the years. This wasn't just hearsay. It was real information about how the royal finance system worked. She began to put together a picture of how money and power moved about the palace by discreetly asking people she knew in finance law and property management. She found out about meetings that weren't on-the-record spending habits that made it hard to tell the difference between personal luxury and official responsibility, and rapid changes in how royal charities use their money. These facts were little on their own a country residence that had been extensively redecorated and was said to be necessary for official entertaining, a rapid change in a supplier for a royal warrant or economic interests that overlapped between courtiers and outside contractors. But when put together by someone as organized as Carole, they made a powerful picture of influence peddling and lack of financial transparency. She wasn't searching for a scandal. She was seeking evidence that the system wasn't as perfect as it seemed. By early 2024, the rising frostiness was clear to everyone. At a school musical for Prince Louis in London, many who follow the royal family saw that the two matriarchs were clearly not close to each other. Carole and Camilla stood at different sides of the hall, even though they used to take pictures together. Witnesses said that Prince William moved between the two ladies, which was clearly an effort to serve as a buffer and calm the situation. It was evident that the private Cold War had spilled over into public light. Part 4. The confrontation, the briefcase, that ended the quiet. A plain black automobile drove through the gates of Buckingham Palace on a chilly gray morning on February 6, 2025. Carole Middleton was the only person on board. There was no press release, no assistant, just a determined lady with a slick leather briefcase. She had asked to meet with Queen Camilla in private, which was so rare that it made the Queen's private office curious. It was given perhaps because they thought it would be a request for increased access or a chance to voice personal concerns. No, it wasn't. What happened in the following 90 minutes in a private sitting room with a view of the royal grounds was not a chat. It was a reckoning. Two people who know a lot about the meeting said that Carole Middleton did not raise her voice. She was cool, deliberate, and didn't give up. She opened her briefcase and put everything on the table, which was made of polished mahogany. There were no impassioned letters or newspaper clippings inside, just a well-arranged portfolio. It included records of money, comprehensive timelines of occurrences and letters. Palace personnel who heard bits and pieces of what happened said that the papers were about a number of sensitive topics. These included alleged financial problems with the management of some royal trusts, unexplained travel and renovation costs charged to sovereign grant accounts, and a documented pattern of moving money and patronage away from charities that were close to the Prince and Princess of Wales and toward those that were closer to the Queen and her circle. The portfolio also included a chronology that linked these financial and administrative actions to the systematic marginalization of the Middleton family. It showed that there was not just a coincidence, but a planned, organized attempt to gain authority and get rid of any outside influence, especially her own. Sources say that the most devastating piece of evidence was information on a number of private meetings in Switzerland and Liechtenstein between financial advisors and high-ranking members of the royal family. The records didn't directly say that anything was unlawful, but they did show a pattern of conduct and a level of financial concealment that would be a huge public relations disaster for the monarchy if it ever came out. Carole's message was not obvious yet, it was very apparent. She wasn't there to threaten the Queen. She was there to show them that she, the lady they had thought was just a shopkeeper, had been watching, listening, and writing down everything. She had the proof and the expertise to keep her family's status safe. She wasn't asking for a seat at the table. She was saying that she was already there and wouldn't be leaving. It is said that the influence on Queen Camilla was quite strong. The Queen, who was regarded for being calm and collected in public, was clearly rattled. One assistant who came into the room not long after Carole left said the Queen looked pale and distraught. Another source said she was spotted crying after looking over some of the papers Carole had given her, which is not something the stoic monarch would normally do. Carole Middleton departed the castle as gently as she came in. She didn't say anything. She didn't let the tale out. The briefcase and everything in it went back to being hers. The palace was so quiet when she left that it seemed like thunder. Part V. What happened next? A messy palace. Almost right away, the shockwaves from Carole's visit spread through the halls of power. A number of important meetings at Buckingham Palace and Clarence House were suddenly called off within hours. Some senior staffers, some of whom had been retired for years, were quietly invited back to help. The palace said that a few royal events in the next several weeks have to be pushed back because of minor scheduling issues. Queen Camilla was out of the public eye for 10 days. When she eventually came back for the Commonwealth Day ceremony at Westminster Abbey on March 11th, she acted quite differently. Body language specialists saw a new shyness and a less confident stance. She was closer to King Charles, and her conversations with the people and other royals were shorter and less lively. The strong, confident queen consort had been replaced with someone who was more shy and careful. Things became tense within the palace. People on staff stopped talking, and there was a definite split. People who were faithful to Queen Camilla and the traditionalist side saw Carole's conduct as a surprising and disruptive break from the rules. Others, especially younger employees and those who supported the Prince and Princess of Wales, apparently felt a feeling of quiet vindication. One young courtier said, "There was a feeling that someone had finally stood up to the old guard." The mood wasn't happy, but it was different. People were more cautious than they had been previously. Prince William, who is renowned for being calm, got caught in the crossfire. People who know him say he was really upset by the fight, but he also understood why his mother-in-law did what she did. In the weeks that followed, people saw him having a number of private meetings with top advisors, some of whom had worked for his mother, Princess Diana. The symbolism was strong, and royal watchers understood it. Diana had waged her own lonely struggles against the palace machine. It seemed like a new generation was going through the same thing, except this time they weren't doing it alone. The journalists, even though they didn't know what happened during the meeting on February 6th, started to smell trouble. Both tabloids and broadsheets wrote on the unexplained gaps in the royal diaries and the visible frostiness between the Queen and the Waleses' camp. It was alleged that businesses with royal warrants were warily looking over their connections, afraid of being caught up in any consequences. Carole Middleton didn't say anything. She went back to her life in Berkshire, where she ran her company and spent time with her family. Her quiet was the most potent weapon she had. She hadn't shot anybody in public, but she had shown that she had the bullets. The monarchy was nervous for the first time in a long time, and in a place where control and predictability were the most important things, that uncertainty was the most perilous change of all. Part 6. The Rise of a New Power. Catherine's Quiet Coronation. If Carole Middleton's gamble was the earthquake, the gradual tectonic movement of the ground underneath the palace is the ascension of her daughter, Catherine, Princess of Wales. A new order has gradually started to take hold in the months after the fight in February. It is a change of power not by revolution, but through evolution, with a lady who has spent 13 years learning how to affect people from the inside out. People have been watching Catherine closely since she married Prince William. Her middle-class upbringing was always there in the background. But Kate's plan was never to fight the system as her mother did. Instead, she wanted to learn how to use it. She read the playbook of the most successful monarch of all time, Queen Elizabeth II. She learned how powerful quiet can be, how a well-chosen gesture can change everything, and how important it is to always do your job. She learned the institution's rules not so that they could control her, but so that she might change them one day. When Queen Camilla left in the spring of 2025, there was a hole in the middle of royal life. Kate didn't hurry to fill it with big statements or a sudden need for attention. Instead, she just took up the space that had been made. Her schedule of public appearances grew a little bit. Her voice, which used to be just one among many at planning meetings, started to matter a lot. The most important physical indicator of this change was that her and William's private office moved. Their whole business used to be in a more distant part of Kensington Palace, but now it's in a prime suite of rooms at Buckingham Palace, only steps from King Charles's own offices. In the monarchy's geography, where power is measured in feet and inches from the king or queen, this was a huge statement. It meant that the Prince and Princess of Wales were no longer the future, they were the present. In the background, William and Kate's relationship grew stronger, making them a powerful dual monarchy in waiting. Palace staff said that there was a new degree of cooperation. William started to trust Mary more and more, so he let her make important choices about how they looked to the world, how they helped others, and how they taught their kids. Kate, on the other hand, gave a point of view that expertly connected the gap between old customs and the contemporary world. Her soft power efforts became increasingly obvious. During a nationwide cost of living crisis, she started to intentionally recycle clothing, blending high-end labels with low-end ones. This was a subtle but strong statement about being thrifty and relatable. Her office's social media pages changed from stiff professional announcements to more personal open stuff like behind-the-scenes photos, funny moments between engagements, and close-up pictures of the kids. She was making the monarchy more human by giving its traditions a real feeling of empathy, not by breaking them down. The changed dynamic was clear as the family got together for Easter service in April 2025. Queen Camilla seemed calm yet shy. Catherine captivated the spectators' hushed attention. She moved with an easy assurance that showed she had gained power. She wasn't simply the Duchess of Cambridge or the Princess of Wales anymore. She was the matriarch in waiting, the one who would get not just a title, but also the strength and strategic skills that her mother had handed down to her. The issue today is not whether the Middletons belong, but how far their influence will eventually stretch. Carole Middleton's surprise choice did more than simply settle a personal score. It showed how weak an old institution was and sped up the transfer of power to the new generation. Power in the palace never goes away. It only changes hands. And now it is clearly going toward the daughter of a former flight attendant. This lady, with the silent support of her strong mother, is ready to change the British monarchy for the 21st century. The House of Windsor is discovering that actual power is earned, even if the crown may be passed along. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts, and goodbye for now.